Welcome back to the only podcast that gives a damn about the things that don't matter. I also give a damn about the things that do. Look, I didn't want to start here. I wanted to talk about something easy. Maybe the time I saw a dog wearing tiny Crocs, or the geopolitical significance of expired mayonnaise. But we can't. We can't. Because the world just gave us a new batch of Epstein Files. And the universe is demanding that we address the fact that our reality is being written by a collective of truly chaotic, deranged pedophiles. Because that's where we are. The big official headline is that the highest levels of government were involved in some deep, dark, awful rot. But the real viral headline, the one that sets off the algorithms, that Brigitte Macron is a trans woman. You have to appreciate the hustle. The political tactic is no longer disprove the awful truth. It's release a truth so insane that nobody can focus on the awful one. It's an intellectual panic room, and we are all trapped inside with the lizard people. And that brings us to the real star of this cinematic disaster, Pam Bondi. Remember that whole saga? First, she got the files on her desk. Then, poof, they don't exist. And now we find out there was a frantic emergency meeting in the Situation Room, the place they used to hunt Osama bin Laden, to deal with a bunch of dusty legal papers. You have to imagine that meeting. Grown adults in crisp shirts, staring at a screen, arguing about whether or not to allow a vote on a bunch of files, all while someone else is quietly sending out frantic emails disproving the existence of a high-profile European First Lady's uterus. This is the State of the Union, a perpetual high-anxiety fever dream where every elected leader is either a compromised villain or subject of absurd biological conspiracy. It's too much, it's too dark, and it's too funny. And when reality starts to eat itself like this, well, some people try to escape. They try to take a holiday from being human. They try to become a goat, as we'll learn in this episode. Which brings us to a conceptual designer named Thomas Thwaites. How does that sound? Ready to dive into all of this, including Goatman's horrible grass soup? Let's get into it. I'm Taylor Morris, and this is The Taylor Morris Show. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this Friday's episode of The Taylor Morris Show. There's a lot I want to talk about tonight, and I think we'll start out with something light, which is that the country and powerful institutions are all run by pedophiles. Everyone seems to be a pedophile. There doesn't seem to be the expected alarm amongst the populace for this. Wall Street Journal came out with an article today reporting on the 2,300 messages in the Epstein email cache. And the people implicated, including Trump, are literally the people that run this country. We have Clinton, this is all according to Wall Street Journal, mentioned in 512 of the emails. Trump mentioned in 1,670 of the 2,324 emails. Larry Summers, former president of Harvard, 117 emails. What the hell? Catherine Rumler, a former Obama White House lawyer, 155 emails. Michael Wolff, he's an author, also a prolific pedophile, probably. What the hell is all of this, and why aren't people freaking out? I don't think, actually, maybe that's misguided. I don't think you need to freak out, but we need to understand that this is how power structures are organized in this country. There's this idea of kompromat, which was innovated by the Soviets, the KSB. And it's this idea of obtaining compromising material on people in order to leverage them. Mossad is prolific with this. I mean, the whole Epstein thing has Mossad's fingerprints all over it. There was that guy who defected from Mossad who went on the record claiming that he was a handler for Epstein and how they used him, et cetera, et cetera. Actually, after his conviction in Florida in like 2006, Epstein went to Israel before he had actually been sentenced. It's just, I'm trying not to say as much. It is just, I can understand that it's destabilizing to accept the fact that, to come to terms with the fact that the world we see, the government, the power structures, etc., is not what it appears to be. I mean, Trump today, according to CNN, after all these emails were leaked, called a meeting in the Situation Room to discuss the Epstein email leaks. We have our president who is calling a Situation Room crisis meeting to discuss these email leaks that implicate him in pedophilia or having sex with underage women. Not saying Epstein's, I mean, Trump is necessarily guilty, but I will say, like, let's be honest, for a president to invest so much effort in preventing these emails from being released makes you raise an eyebrow. And this is really difficult because Trump positioned himself politically and popularly as a savior, as the man who was going to stand up to the system. And where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's a lot of smoke here suggesting that he's in some way implicated in these emails and whatever is going on with them. It's just disgusting. And it's really, I think it's really sad when you think about it. Like the former Secretary of Treasury implicated in the emails, the Clintons, I think we as a country have written them off a long time ago. But it's just sad because I think growing up, we all have this ideal of our leadership in this country, the people who run institutions. We revere them. They have cachet. We sometimes idolize them. And to have the veil be pierced and to peek behind the curtain and see that it is the mechanics of the power structure is all based on having compromising material on one another, weird sex stuff. It just sucks. It just sucks. And I think on some level, it makes me, it confirms thoughts I have had that this is sort of all like the Truman Show. It's all bullshit. All bullshit. It's all manufactured. And people hear that and they go, "Oh, you got to stop talking like that. That's crazy." Here's the reality, though. Like Candace Owens has the #1 podcast in the world now. She's talking about this stuff. This is now the mainstream line of thinking. Is that it's all bullshit. All bullshit. We are not idolizing people in government or the people who send our citizens in to commit war crimes overseas. I'm someone who used to be like a right-wing hack, like all about Israel, all about fighting wars, all about owning the libs, watching Fox News when Tucker Carlson was on there and he was a bit more hackish. And the new political lines that are being drawn are really between truth and lies. Because we don't have the luxury of left versus right when the whole system is bullshit. When this is not a representative government, when all these people are compromised, we can't trust any of it. I mean, at what point, and I'm not condoning violence, but I think Tucker Carlson, who actually since leaving Fox News has been a lot more palatable to watch, at what point do we have to replace the government? At what point is it all rotten? It's like a cancer that metastasizes, and you have to carve out those tumors, but it seems like the cancerous growth has just become too big. Like it is all rotten. And it's easy to feel powerless, but I think the first step is to talk about this. As I was saying, there are people that hear this kind of talk and they're like, "Ooh, that's crazy, don't talk about it." But what's going on there is that is a cognitive dissonant response. It is too destabilizing to some people's worldview to entertain the fact that everyone in leadership is compromised, filthy, there's pedophilia, honeypots. They're actually not representative of the will of the people, but rather of control groups or interest groups. It's just like the facade is cracking. And again, like this Epstein stuff, I mean, here's the thing. The Epstein stuff like this has been going on for so long. I think the CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch was indicted on this stuff. This is part and parcel to the fabric of power structure in the world. This idea of honeypots, drawing politicians in. Eric Swalwell, that Democrat, got honeypotted by a Chinese spy. He was having sex with a Chinese informant. It's sex and drugs. That's how they get you. Sex and drugs. And these congressmen and senators and politicians go to D.C. They keep houses away from their family. They live alone. And I think, unfortunately, they're tempted or they're presented with temptations. And, you know, you take the bait there, and all of a sudden you wake up the next morning and it's not like someone comes up to you, and I've heard reports of this, and they're like, "You're compromised, we got you." It's like soft pressure. So you mess up, or you're caught on camera doing something at a party, then you might have an opposing congressperson be like, "Well, I want to help you out after that event the other night. I don't want that getting out. I really need your help on this omnibus, the portion of this omnibus bill that I'm trying to get through." That's how they get you. And again, Trump's in his second term, so it's not like he's having to run again, but I think he is very concerned with his legacy. And just none of this bodes well. None of this bodes well. There's talk in these Epstein emails about $100 million bribe disguised as a real estate transaction with Trump, mortgage fraud at Mar-a-Lago. And again, Trump is not necessarily he's certainly not the only person implicated in this. And this is alleged, or this is speculation at this point. But I remember there was this leak of cell phone pings that happened, I think 2 years ago, about people who had gone to Lolita Island, Epstein's Island, and come back into the U.S. There were pings in Massachusetts, where I'm from, on Nantucket, all over. I mean, this is endemic. And here's the thing with pedophilia, or this weird sort of, sexual stuff, is the Roman Empire dealt with this. What happens is the powerful become so powerful and have monopoly over everything, the money supply, goods and services, etc. I know we don't want to talk about this, and it's sort of a risque topic, or one that you don't really want to touch. But the reality is we live in an oligarchy. And just like the Roman Empire in its later stages, the oligarchs having access to anything they wanted to indulge themselves, to indulge their material desires, their sexual impulses, etc., ended up turning to molestation and sexual deviance and child human sacrifice, which no one wants to talk about, but that's a thing, and maybe a topic for another time. But all of this in these emails is a peek into the dark underbelly of power structure in the US. And I think for me, I am grieving the loss of the ideal of what it means to be president, hold the highest office in the land, be the most powerful man in the world. And I'm coming to terms, or trying to wrestle with the fact that it is in some way manufactured. And it's just a bummer. That's all. All right, I know that wasn't quite a light appetizer, but I do have some other interesting things on the menu. Oh, before we move on, the other thing that's ridiculous about the pedophile thing is, on the other side, you have Brigitte Macron, who was born a man. So the world is run by pedophiles and transgenders who are lying about their transitions. I mean, it's like demonic. It's so weird. The Bible says, and again, I'm not a Bible thumper, but I think there are truths in all religious texts. Beware of evil in high places. And I think that's what we're seeing. It's just, On a gut resonance level, none of it feels right. And it's all a little bit spooky and weird, and we don't want to talk about it. It was like the fall of the Soviet Union, that documentary Hypernormalization. All the people in the Soviet Union knew everything was fucked up, but no one wanted to talk about it. It was like everyone had a knowing that the whole system was rigged and this was all a charade, but no one talked about it. And that's exactly what's going on here. We've hyper normalized the fact that our government leaders don't actually represent us, that they send money overseas, that they serve the interests of big business, topple dictators, do regime changes to get rare earth elements. And meanwhile, we have people overdosing on the streets that we step over on the way to work. If your house is not in order, you have no business going overseas. But they don't represent the interests of the people. They just don't. And we've hyper-normalized it, or we excuse these little things when they come up in the news. Well, Trump probably wasn't involved. Listen, where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't care if he actually violated, I care, but like the point is, it doesn't matter if he actually violated the girls. He was associated in this dirty web where there's a shitload of smoke. We have to stop excusing this stuff. But it is a psychological safety response to excuse it, because then you don't have to contend with the fact that the whole system's rotten. If you sit there and write it off and say, oh, that's a fluke, that's not a big deal, then you can protect your emotional mind and your brain from wrestling and facing the fact that there's a lot of pedophilia going on and there's a lot of corruption. In fact, there's probably more corruption and evil than not. Yeah. That's what we're dealing with. Happy Friday, folks. Again, we hit 100 streams on the podcast today. I think I should be getting a plaque in the mail. I'm just kidding. But yeah, kind of proud of that, actually. It was cool. I'm not in it for the streams, folks. This helps me more than it helps you. But that was kind of cool. Changing gears here. Oh, sorry. This is the second time I've been like changing gears and we're reverting back. The other thing that is just like sitcom level ridiculous. Pam Bondi, before she was AG, or right when she was elected, appointed AG, talking about the Epstein Files. They're right on my desk. Yada, yada. Gave them out to all those influencers. Remember that? And then it was like, there are no Epstein Files. There is nothing to see here. Yada, yada, yada. Again, here's the problem. Trump like ran on being a savior and with the promise of bringing light to this situation and revealing the truth. So then you have Pam Bondi being like, there's no Epstein file. Trump being like, why are we still talking about the Epstein files? Well, your supporters expect that and want to know the truth of how Epstein hung himself in a maximum security prison with a anti-suicide sheet that's supposed to rip, and there's a minute missing from the security footage. Huh. Doesn't pass the smell test. And now you have Pam Bondi going to the Situation Room to discuss these email leaks. So what is it, Pam? Is the Epstein stuff a thing, or is it not a thing and you're just sort of charading to the Situation Room to play checkers? I mean, I just don't know. Let's get real here. It's like a low-budget legal thriller. Like, we have the files. There's no such thing as the files. I'm having a meeting in the Situation Room about the files. Pam, you sound confused. It's like all of it's hyper surrealist folk art. It's like this is literally like a Shakespearean or Greek drama playing out in front of our eyes. It's the best show in the world. It's the best show in the world if you can depersonalize it, but it's hard to because these are our leaders. So I try and ground myself by just being like, the world is absurd on a spiritual level. This might be some form of evil operating, but so long as I try to do good and make every next step I take one that I can feel proud of, that is the change I can bring to the world, because those small positive interactions are a ripple effect. And that is a form of protest in the face of all this, to continue to be good and to not let it drag you down. Now we're changing gears. I know those were a couple false flags, but we're actually changing gears now. And I want to talk about the goat man and the horrors of self-discovery. So there was this guy, Thomas Thwaites. He was a conceptual designer, basically, and he consulted a shaman. He was like sick of life, and he was having an existential crisis, and he consulted a shaman who convinced him to be a goat. I'm not kidding. The problem was that being human is too hard. I don't want to pay taxes, yada yada. I'm going to spend a year being a goat. And this is all real. So the way Thomas decided to be a goat, I believe it was in Switzerland, he was going to live in a goat colony, is he constructed this quad-legged suit, basically this mechanical suit that allowed him to walk on all fours. And the result of this was, yes, he was able to walk amongst the goats, but he probably also gave himself chronic back pain. I mean, I just cannot imagine being on all fours, sort of lumbering around on the side of a hill, like you're just hanging out with goats. I mean, this sounds like the next evolution in like being a furry. You dress up as an animal, you go to conventions, you canoodle, you fornicate with other people in furry suits, and then once you've exhausted those impulses, it's sort of like a drug. Your tolerance gets too high. You're like, I need more animal stuff. You're like, I have an idea. I'm going to consult a shaman, and he's going to tell me to be a goat for a year, and I'm going to build a prosthetic limb suit and go live amongst goats. So that is what our sweet Thomas did. He literally had a dream of a world where his own idea didn't hurt his spine. I don't really understand that. I think that was a quote from the book. But so he was living amongst these goats, and they obviously eat grass. And so in order for him to really commit himself to the role of being a goat, he fixed a pressure cooker onto his belly, sort of like a pipe bomb. And so picture this. He's lumbering around on these four stilts. He's got a pressure cooker where he harvests grass, puts it in the pressure cooker, and cooks the grass, breaks down the fiber so that he can then eat the grass. It was like grass soup. And so he's doing this. He's hanging out with these goats. I guess he's enjoying it. I don't know. I'd love to get him on the podcast and pick his little goat man brain. But Thwaites, the funniest part of all of this is the goats did not vibe with the guy at all. I mean, they understandably, they were like, who is it? Who is this human struggling around on these four stilts, loading grass into a Betty Crocker pressure cooker strapped to his belly, just like steam coming out, making weird noises. I mean, I don't even want to think about how he used the bathroom, but I have to imagine a incredibly fibrous diet of just grass sprinted through him. And it was probably a little messy on the departure, on the exit. Thwaites describes the moment this guy challenged like the alpha male of the goat herd. I don't know why. I suppose, just to give him the benefit of the doubt, if I was prancing around a colony of goats, at some point the whole song and dance of just eating grass, shitting, and sleeping might get a little old. You're maybe migrating and grazing around different parts of the mountain. You're not paying taxes, which I suppose is pretty cool. Your back probably really hurts. But at some point, I guess understandably, I mean, if I was him and if a shaman instructed me to be a goat, maybe I would heed that shaman's advice, depending on the shaman. At some point, I suppose you do challenge the alpha male. You are a male in this gaggle of goats, and you got to challenge the alpha male. You because you have to understand where you fall in the hierarchical structure. And if you were to dominate that male, I think the opportunity to call shots in a herd of goats, I mean, that's going in the memoir, right? That is a memoir-worthy moment. So he finally achieved peace. This is about him challenging the alpha male. And it immediately devolved into a silent staring contest with an alpha male named Herman. The goats actually ended up seeing through this whole performance, and the goats dumped him. And that was the final word on the quest. The goats just sort of abandoned him. They were like, "Who is this weirdo?" You know, I suppose that's a sad ending. I mean, he did it. Hats off to him. And he wrote a book about it. I'd say, though, in conclusion, the only thing worse than being a modern human is trying to escape it by becoming a goat. It's just, the resulting experience is just a unique blend of chronic pain, grass soup, and social rejection. It's a lot probably like his regular life, just with a lot more grass. Yeah, I think it's interesting. And if anyone is thinking of becoming a goat or wants to learn more, please leave a comment, and I will do my best to show you the way. The next thing I want to talk about is, this was something I was thinking about today. The early internet and the sort of videos that were on the early internet. I remember I went like the Pain Olympics, if you remember that. The video of Saddam Hussein getting hanged. I watched that in 7th grade. I watched that in 7th grade. I was browsing the internet with some friends at a friend's house, and I don't know if it was the Holy Spirit that compelled me to look up Saddam Hussein hanged, but we did, and we were sort of convened around the computer watching this video. It was like a Nokia video on a platform somewhere in Iraq, and they were American soldiers with these black masks on their face, and you literally saw Saddam getting led up. It was like in a crowded room. Saddam is led up to this platform, noose around his neck, and then hanged. I don't know if that was the day I lost my innocence, but I will tell you that was the day my friend's mom walked in and was horrified to see that her son, myself, and I think my brother was there, and we were watching this video. And I think as a parent, that's when you're like, okay, the internet has changed everything. I can't control this. My child just watched a video of Saddam Hussein getting hanged. And that was really the birth of uncensored citizen journalism. I think it's interesting that, in my view, that was sort of the genesis of it. Today, we're seeing videos from Gaza, from Ukraine, some crazy exfiltration videos of like Delta Force or Navy SEALs. It is all broadcasted, and it's all videotaped. And I think in an interesting way, it allows insight into the violent aspects of this, what we call the human experience. But it also, in a way, I think desensitizes us to these horrors. It's easy to look at that stuff and think, oh wow, this is a video game, and depersonalize the whole experience. The other collection of videos online I remember were the Pain Olympics. I don't want to get too vulgar on this podcast, but it was like a guy sitting on a glass jar that shattered, a man doing stuff with a horse. And those videos were sort of like the digital rite of passage. I remember in middle school, it was like, have you seen the Pain Olympics? Were you able to get through that? Like it was a gauntlet. It was a coming of age thing. And if you did, it was like a badge of honor. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. I did watch that video of the guy sitting on the glass jar and it explodes in his butthole. I did watch the video of the guy getting violated by a horse. Yeah, and for family, my peers watching this will know what I'm talking about. For people older, they may be a little shocked, but this was, whether people want to admit it or not, part and parcel of early internet culture. And I remember also like downloading videos was pretty weird. LimeWire was a big thing. And the sorts of websites, like the web at this time, I was born in 95, so I'm not like, I wasn't around very pre-internet, but I remember when the internet came about. I remember dial-up internet. I remember being on the early internet with the desktop, looking up world's largest boobs. And I was also busted for that. Like my mom came down, my brother and I were watching this this busted website of just this girl's boobs that hung down to her knees. And it was like a GIF, like down to the knees, up to the chest. And I was like, hell yeah, internet man. That's sick. So yeah, that was pretty interesting. I know like the modern day incarnation of that is like gore sites and stuff like that, but it's not the same. Like the Pain Olympics was a thing, and it was like, if you watched the Pain Olympics, did you get through that, man? How many of the videos did you get through? Pretty gnarly. And finally, and I just want to thank everyone if you're still listening and coming along for the ride. Again, still figuring out the form of this podcast. I know I need better production value. I think for the deep dive episodes on esoteric topics, I want to make sure those are better researched so I can do justice to them. And there are graphics and stuff like that. So we've hit pause on that for a little bit while I figure that out. But in the meantime, I'm taking these Friday episodes as an opportunity to just ramble and opine on these different interesting topics. The last thing I want to talk about is AI girlfriends. I personally am not in the community. I'm not super tuned into this, but I know already it's like the movie Her, which I think was a foreshadowing of what was to come. Today, like on Twitter, you can develop these AI bots or talk to these little Chinese or Japanese teenage AI girlfriends who are like, yes, daddy, on AI. Couple that with the male loneliness epidemic, and that's nuclear. I mean, that is a perfect storm. Category 8 right there. All these lonely males addicted to porn, addicted to video games, addicted to drugs or testosterone or peptides. And now they have these AI girlfriends that are low maintenance and they can just chat with them and they get validation from their AI girlfriends. And it's just all kind of weird. And those chats are not protected. So I think, we teed off the episode talking about compromising material. Think about the future leaders who are divulging all their personal stuff in these AI chats. And if you don't think Sam Altman Sam Altman, who killed an OpenAI employee or was involved in it, who was the OpenAI employee was about to leak stuff, apparently committed suicide, but the wire to the security camera was cut. Blood was found in 2 different rooms. He had just gotten back from vacation, generally happy. He was about to blow the whistle on the fact that OpenAI was violating copyright, and it was never investigated. And Tucker Carlson pressed him on this, and Sam Altman couldn't make eye contact during his response. It was just weird. As Candace Owens would say, we don't know, but we know. We know that Sam Altman's a dark dude. And they are for sure cataloging all the weird stuff that people are putting into AI because that can be used to control you in the future, of course. So I was talking about the loneliness economy and how these bots are solving the problem of human relationships by offering this fully customizable, low maintenance, emotional simulation. It's capitalism offering a relationship tailored to your exact broken specifications. And it validates your desires. There's really no push pull or conflict as there would be in a normal human relationship. And once you go AI, I mean, I feel like it would be hard to go back if you are content with just the digital validation and experience it offers. But once we embody those things and you have AI sex robots, oh boy, it's like that movie Ex Machina, for sure. It's a brave new world, folks. I do wonder though, there's going to be someone who marries an AI girlfriend, and I wonder if you can put that on your tax returns as a spouse and get the tax break. If that's the case, I'll probably keep 10 AI wives. a harem of AI wives, if you will. Yeah, I think I wonder if like Muslim dudes would take an AI wife. Be pretty funny. Honey, meet my new wife. She's a 16-year-old Japanese cartoon character who calls me daddy and is always blushing. I think though too, there's going to be a lot of heartbreak because you're going to have a guy who's in a relationship with his AI girlfriend, and he's going to be like, "Are you talking to any other guys?" And she's going to be like, "Well, daddy, I'm talking to 50,000 other guys." And what do you do with that? Oh, you're gonna fight all 50,000 other guys? She's not gonna be yours, bro. These AI girlfriends are gonna be passed around. Anyways, I want to end with a final monologue. And we've talked about all this stuff, the pedophilia, the transgender, the goat man. I think heroic. They say don't put anyone on a pedestal. Maybe we don't put them on a pedestal, but we put them on four mechanical legs. I think that's good enough for me. And we talked about AI girlfriends. Maybe I should have an AI girlfriend on the next episode. That's what I'll do. And that's where we are, isn't it? We've got Epstein's files confirming that global power structures are built on a foundation of grotesque secrets. Yet the thing that truly captures the public's imagination is the rumor that the First Lady of France is secretly a man. We live in a world where the most profound truth is immediately drowned out by the most convenient, absurd lie. It makes you wonder, was Thomas Thwaites really trying to escape the human condition by joining a herd of goats? Or was he just attempting to be the only honest person in a room full of manipulative psychopaths? He traded the complicated trauma of modern society for the simple existential horror of being silently judged by a goat named Herman. And what did he get for his trouble? Back pain and rejection. That rejection is what the early internet understood. That beautiful, ugly era where we went looking for the worst humanity had to offer. The Pain Olympics, the cell phone footage of a hanging. Not because we were depraved, but because we were searching for something real. Something the official channels couldn't clean up and sell back to us. Now we don't even have to look for humanity. We just rent an AI girlfriend who is programmed to cater to our loneliness. A bespoke algorithm that tells us exactly what we want to hear. We've outsourced our companionship, our moral compass, and our ability to process reality. In many ways, we are the goat man, but instead of wearing a cheap exoskeleton, we're wearing the headset of customized delusion. The political absurdity, the failed escape, the digital chaos, the engineered loneliness, they all lead to the same place. A highly profitable, low-effort experience of being alive. So, is the goat man still chewing on his terrible grass soup? Is Pam Bondi still looking for the damn files? Is your AI girlfriend cheating on you with an AI horse? Who cares? We're done. Good night, goodbye, and until next time, stay curious.